So, Apple just released firmware 8B41 for the AirPods Pro 3. Now, this is probably one of the last updates before the official iOS 27 rollout, after which we'll get the 3-band graphic EQ that was shown at WWDC. I'm, in fact, now testing that in beta, but for all of you who do prefer to wait for the official rollout and are wondering whether this new firmware 8B41 inadvertently changed anything about the AirPods Pro 3's performance, keep watching. And as Apple continues to roll out firmware updates for the AirPods Pro 3, I will keep testing them, so get subscribed for the latest updates. In terms of microphone pickup on the new firmware, it hasn't really changed on both iOS and Android. Voice filtering on my iPhone with voice isolation is still too aggressive. Maybe even a bit more aggressive on this new firmware, so that it cuts a bit more into my voice. And on Android, the pickup quality in both quiet and noisy conditions is still the same. In noisy conditions, I tested them with very loud cafe-style background noise and wind noise from this fan. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3, running firmware 8B41 on an iOS device with voice isolation mode turned on. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 with voice isolation mode turned on iOS, running firmware 8B40. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 on an iOS device with voice isolation mode turned on running firmware 8B40. The quick loud fox comes over, is it I'm now making a phone call noisy and windy place using the AirPods Pro 3 with voice isolation mode turned on iOS, running firmware 8B40. The quick loud fox jumps over, the lazy dog. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 running firmware 8B41 on an Android device. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 on an Android device running firmware 8B40. I'm now making a phone call in a noisy and windy place using the AirPods Pro 3 running firmware 8B41 on an Android device. The quick downstep jumps over the lazy dog. I'm now making a phone call in a noisy and windy place using the AirPods Pro 3 on an Android device running firmware 8B40. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. In terms of active noise cancelling was already improved on the previous firmware 8B40, but now it's improved even more with 8B41. Yes, it may not seem that way from this frequency sweep. In fact, the AirPods Pro 3 on both firmwares look pretty identical in terms of noise cancelling power, but the AirPods Pro 3 now seems to react more quickly and more forcefully against mid-range noise. This means the best earbuds for noise cancelling is now even better. Now, if you want to compare their active noise cancelling and call quality to other products, for just $1 per month or more, you can access My Secret Weapon, my personal database, which lets you compare their samples A to B directly. Hundreds of people have joined up because this saves you so much time, being able to just cut through all the marketing and compare the products yourself without visiting a store. Most stores don't even let you try the products due to hygiene reasons. So join now on YouTube or Patreon through the links below. In terms of its transparency mode on the new firmware, it seems like there is a little less brightness in the ambience, and this can be due to this pulling back in the upper mids region around 1 kHz to 4 kHz. Now, to be fair, transparency was already quite awesome to begin with, very clear on the AirPods Pro 3. So for some people, voices and higher pitched sounds might feel a bit darker, yes, but for most people who just use transparency mode casually, it's gonna be as clear and crisp as before the update. Now, for sound quality, previously on the old firmware 8B40, there was a bump up in the bass region, but now it seems like it's pulled back again, with the lower mid-range region seeing a small boosting compared to before the update. I've recorded some sound samples. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you can spot any difference between the sound quality on the old firmware 8B40 and firmware 8B41. To compare their sound quality to other headphones and earbuds, go to loud&wireless.com/sound samples. So that's how the AirPods Pro 3's performance on firmware 8B41 compares to its previous firmware 8B40. Let me know, guys, in the comments if you've also spotted any difference not mentioned in this video, and get subscribed if you want to keep track of these changes with me, and tap the bell button to stay notified.